You need to smartly apply yourself to training over a long period of time to get good at running. But I do believe that part of that work hard culture, as in, like I said, do hill sprints until you can't walk, run on a track until you throw up. Just go to the track. When you're there, start to pay attention. You'll be running to the right heart rate, you'll be working at the right intensity, and everybody around you will be on the floor exhausted. Yeah, I believe that most of that is actually anxiety. I think what happens is basically we live with anxiety. Sometimes we don't know about it. I was literally walking this morning and there was a couple walking behind me and I was riddled with anxiety. They were probably like 60 meters behind me and I'm still thinking like, whoa, 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 stop walking so close. If you're riddled with anxiety, what then happens is when you're running, it'll rub off on you when you're running. So when you're out driving the car and people drive too close to you, or you get a bit worked up and you almost get a bit like hostile, I think that happens to a small degree when we're running. This idea that I'm not fit enough, oh my God, what if this starts to get hard? And instead of like relaxing and taking a deep breath, we actually push and then push too hard. But I'm gonna get the warm-up done and then we can chat. All right, so warm-up's done, 4 and a bit K. I'm always wondering like why people are like staring at me. And then I'm like, you're a 34-year-old man in a pair of half tights carrying a tripod and a camera. So today I'm gonna do some sort of like minute reps, like timed. So probably like 4 minutes, but at aerobic power. So it's actually gonna be quite hard. And probably like a minute recovery. Everything I've been doing is like that little bit more comfortable, so that sort of like threshold the effort, some hills. I did do some VO2 that day in Chiavenna, but it kind of sucked. I'm fed up moaning about that now. But today we're going to work on being relaxed while working that little bit harder. When I do this aerobic power work, I tend to get a big boost from it, and so it's about time I did it. It's been about 2 weeks and yeah, I got to get stuck into that. So let's finish the warm-up and then we'll get into some drills, some strides, that kind of stuff, and then crack on with these aerobic power reps. All right, so I think I've recorded this like 3 times now. The first time I did it, I basically ran out of battery. The second time I did it, the mic wasn't connected properly, and so I was talking about anxiety, I was talking about training and aerobic power and how the session went and how it had went really well. And then there was these church bells going and I'm sitting there like, do, 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 do. Little did I know the church bells weren't the problem, the microphone wasn't plugged in. So I'm going to do it again. In St. Moritz, it's usually windy in the afternoons, or there's working happen, chainsaws, woodwork, and it's just noisy. It's difficult to record. But today's going to be slightly different, and I'll tell you why. It was a harder session, and so because it was a harder session, I'm going to talk about the importance of a strong warm-up, you could say, just to make sure that you're prepared for that harder effort. That strong warm-up is going to get your body ready to just it's not when the gun goes, but when you start that first rep, the risk of not being ready to go is much lower, so you're not going to get injured and the quality of the session can be better. It's that simple. But what I'm going to do, instead of showing you me running up and down, looking really good, I didn't have time to record that because the focus had to be a lot higher. And then also because the session takes quite a bit out of me, I can't just go film after as like B-roll, as they could call it. So it was a great session. It was a lap of the lake at threshold, and I'll get into why I did that. And then it's 6 times 4 minutes at aerobic power. Went really, really well. The numbers were looking really good, both in terms of lactate speed, how I felt. Really happy with that. I talked a little bit about anxiety in sessions. I get anxiety all the time. I don't know if everybody recognizes when they're having anxiety. But when you're having anxiety, it's almost, the anxiety isn't the problem. It's when anxiety makes you act a certain way that could become a problem in running or in life in general.
So you start the rep number 1, 2, 3, probably feeling pretty good. Then you're starting to have to work a bit, and you either make a decision to slow it down or anxiety creeps in and you start to panic, and you almost get that like choking effect where the breathing can get out of pattern. You have to remind yourself as quick as you can, everything's okay, breathe normally, drop the shoulders, calm everything down, and understand that you were there to work at a certain effort, and hopefully that effort would allow you to run quickly the pace you wanted. But if it doesn't, all that really mattered was the intensity and the effort. Take that deep breath. So take that deep breath, and if you have to, take a little bit longer in the recovery just to compose yourself, and then off you go again. But you really have to get used to when that anxiety comes and when it starts to feel a little bit harder than you'd like it to, during the rep, composing yourself. And I mean, this is okay. I'm used to being here. I'm used to being in this uncomfortable state. It's not easy anymore. I'm having to work a bit. I might slow. What if? Who the fuck cares? You slow, you slow. Compose yourself. Big deep breath. Really focus on that exhale. That when you exhale, the body automatically inhales, right? So when you start panicking and getting that anxiety, suddenly you start almost hyperventilating. You might even hear yourself wheezing. Okay, so the importance of a good warm up. You've done maybe your easy run, and then you came back, and then you're going to do like I'm showing you now. You've got these drills, you've got these like dynamic drills that gets the body moving a little bit faster, which is going to get you better prepared than you were leaving your couch this morning to start this session. The warm-up jog, that's just a small part of it. That's starting to get the muscles warm, it's starting to get them activated, it's starting to get them working, but then you have to move into your dynamic drills that basically fire the muscles up. When you're doing something like threshold reps or, maybe up tempo, and it's not too difficult, but it's kind of marathon effort or half marathon effort, you can still do a lot of these drills, but they're not as important. I'm not saying don't do them, I'm just saying they're not as important. But when you're going to do something like aerobic power or VO2 max intervals or hill reps or speed, these warm-up drills are going to protect you from getting injured in that first rep. They're also going to increase the quality of that first rep because basically you're switching on those fast twitch fibers. You're also getting the muscles activated, which muscle activation is like, if you want right now, I pause the video, try to do a 10 to 20-second plank, just, on hunch down, do your plank, then take a bit of rest, do it again. The second time you do it will feel far easier than the first time. That's called activating muscles. Switches them on, gets them ready to go. All this stuff I'm showing you now, the drills, the activation stuff, there's more of this on the website, joggingroom.com. But basically, the principles of doing all this is always to reduce that injury risk, increase quality of session, and give your body physically and then psychologically a better chance of executing a good session. If you jump into that first rep, you haven't done a warm up, you haven't done any drill, you haven't done any activation stuff, and you feel horrible, you're going to then psychologically crumble a little bit and fall apart. But you didn't really give your body a chance. So what you're really trying to do is give your body the best chance of it going well. When the muscles are activated, when they're fired up, when they're warm, they're going to perform at a higher ability. It's also going to give you the chance psychologically to feel better in that first rep, which sometimes sets the tone for the session. If the first rep doesn't feel as good, try to take that deep breath. I always add that little bit of threshold at the start in the marathon plans or on the website in joggingroom.com, sorry. In every single session that I plan for people, there's I think it's either 1 times 3 minutes or 1 times 5 minutes at slightly below half marathon effort at the beginning of the session. So what that does is it stops the first rep feeling like super hard work, but then it also stops what is this kind of like spike in lactate. So if you're not warmed up, you're not ready to go, and you haven't done your activation drills, and you haven't done your, your dynamic stretching, your dynamic drills, your plyometric drills, what then tends to happen is in that first rep, you're trying to take your heart rate from probably like 120 up to like 165, 170. It can't do that quickly. So there's this oxygen debt, which creates a spike in lactate, and you feel terrible for the rest of the session. by doing that first lap of the lake at threshold, it was probably a bit too far, 4 and a bit K. Probably should have done like 2K, maybe even 1500 meters. All it's doing is just flattening that spike. So that spike doesn't happen because we've got that heart rate up before we've jumped into the higher intensity stuff. Practice that, see how that goes. It was a good session. Have a look at that warm up stuff. Really compose yourself psychologically. This, what if I start to slow? What if this doesn't go well? You're not going to get shot at the end of the rep. That's not going to happen. It's all ego and bravado. I do it too. What if I slow down? What does that mean? It means nothing. You're doing that session to help prepare you for the next sessions and the next races. You likely will slow down because that's why you're doing the session, so that you don't next time, so that you don't in the race. Really good session. Really happy with how it went. The splits were really good. The fitness is really taking shape, you could say, which is really exciting. It's starting to look really good for a good marathon and hopefully a good 5K in probably about 10 days from now. I'm actually starting to freshen up a bit now. So I've had these long periods of hard training. And in order for this thing called super compensation to take place, which is you do the hard training, it makes you tired, and then you want your graph to come back up and go beyond where you've been before, you need to recover. So many tips on recovery, nutrition, psychology, running specific strength conditioning on the website. I'm putting in so much time and effort to make those better, the guides better, the website better, the app better. So check that out if you like. Do all those lovely things, like, subscribe, and have a lovely day.